Good evening to all of you. And the modality that I'm going to follow is that I'll be posing you a lot of questions as we go along. And since all of you, it's in the meeting mode, you can just unmute and answer me. Okay, so we will not wait till the end because then it becomes a monologue. So as we go along, I would want your participation and your interaction. And see, this is not a test. So just tell me, what you think. Maybe you've done something, maybe you've not, but I'm sure you have a perspective, you have some ideas, you have thoughts which you can share. Okay, so is that fine with you?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
So when I ask a question, don't even raise your hand, just unmute and, and answer, okay? And we will follow the decorum. If somebody is answering, the other person who wishes to answer shall wait, okay? So this is a very, very adult group. So I'm sure this will work. So with this, I start my presentation, which is on tools in qualitative research.
Recording in progress.
Can you all see?
Not yet, ma'am.
No, ma'am, not yet.
Okay.
Not yet, ma'am.
So why is this just 1 minute? Okay.
Now it is visible.
Yeah, okay, but I'm going to put a slideshow. Let me do the slideshow. Why is this not coming?
And the second option from the first or second, from beginning or from current slide?
No, it's
This will come up.
yeah.
Yeah.
So is this clear to all?
Yes. Yes.
Yes.
Okay. Okay. So here, in this session, we are going to try and understand that you have already learned, the differences of qualitative and quantitative research. Okay, so you already have a good idea about studies that you do when you are conducting quantitative research and the studies that you do when you're conducting a qualitative research, So, and just to refresh your memory, we are talking about qualitative research where you're trying to find out meaning from the text where different patterns are emerging. So interpretation of that, and collecting qualitative data, thick qualitative data to give meaning to what you are studying. Now, when you talk about tools, okay, and quantitative research where you're using inferential statistics have been used, that is one of the major differences. Now, when you talk about, tools in qualitative research, my first question to you is, before I show you my slide, do the tools in qualitative and quantitative research or forms of data collection, some literature, if you see some books on qualitative research, for example, Michael Quinn Patton, or you see, this one, Cresswell, they are using different words, forms of data collection, or you call it tools of data collection. So different literature is using different terms, but the way we collect data, what we use to collect data, let's say, so are they the same, or some are different, or they are all the same? This is my question to you. Yes. Yes. What do you think? You have already had, sessions in quantitative research tools. So what do you think? Anyone? Yes.
And like interview schedule, some tools can be same, like interview schedules or questionnaires can be there in quantitative, qualitative, both.
Yeah.
The way in which they are probably interpreted, or the way in the details in which maybe we ask would be more detailed with respect to the objectives. Basically, it will be more detailed, probably, or more open-ended, I would say, when it comes to qualitative, and we'll let the information flow in from all.
Yeah, absolutely right. Anyone else has any thought to this? Anyone else? Yes, you're absolutely right. That many of the tools remain the same. Yes, anyone else? Anyone else has any other idea? Yes.
May I speak?
Yes, definitely. I want it to be very, very interactive, because see, all of you are scholars and you do have a perspective, and maybe, some of you may not be using these tools, but you have a mind, which is sharp and which works. Yes, please.
In my opinion, the nomenclature is same, but the interpretation depends upon the perspective of the researcher and also the type of research he is conducting. So, for example, if he is using a questionnaire form, so the questionnaire, the format will be the same, but the interpretation of the data will be different in both the qualitative and quantitative forms. So, although the nomenclature is same, but the interpretation might be different.
Okay, absolutely right. So what we understand from those two responses that, who have these two scholars who have shared with us, that many of the tools are the same, okay? But the way we collect data and the way we interpret, of course, the analysis is different, but even the way we go about using these tools and the way we go about collecting the data would be different in qualitative research. So we do use, many of the same tools that you are familiar with. Okay, so if you have, tools or forms of data collection, you have observations, you have interviews, you have questionnaires, you have documents, you have audiovisual material, okay, which are there. And, and many of these are also used in collecting quantitative data. But here, please remember, we are not interested here in quantifying, when we use these questionnaires or we use the observation. Now, if I'm trying to observe, I do not count the frequency. I do not take out the percentage as I would do in a quantitative study, because that is not the purpose that I have. Okay? And I'm not, my research questions are different, and I'm going deep into the study which I have, planned. And let's say that, I have, for example, I'm studying the leadership behavior of 7 ashram school principals. Okay, so I want to see what are the traits and what are the skills, leadership skills these ashram school principals have. So these 7 which I study, I'm not interested to take out percentage and plot the frequency. That is not my intention at all. So the point I'm making here, and same goes for the questionnaires and the interviews. So as we go one by one, I'm going to go more in detail. So there is a difference, as you have all very rightly said. Okay. Now we find that observations. Now, observations are a very potent tool, qualitative, so far qualitative research is concerned. We find that observation, of course, has a lot of advantage, and the major advantage is that you are on the site, you are recording the phenomena which is being presented there. Okay, so you are in the actual study, in your actual setting, you are actually studying the actual behavior. Now, like I said, even in the sciences, if you take, even in the sciences, we find that, the pattern of behavior of animals. So you observe that. So when you're observing the pattern of behavior of chimpanzees or chimps or monkeys, or you're trying to find out, you're observing the pattern and trying to find out the pattern of behavior of tigers, and how they are behaving. So observation becomes a very, very important tool here. So far, a qualitative tool is concerned. Now, a very important question here is that we also use in quantitative research, we use what is known as an observation schedule. Now, my question to you is observation and observation schedule the same, or they are different? First tell me that, and we'll go ahead. Yes.
Observation may be looked as a technique, which is a process followed to collect the data, while the observation schedule, it is actually the means which is used to collect the observation data.
Okay. So what is the difference? That's right, you say.
The difference is that the other one is the method, while the other one is someone can help on that one.
So basically the observation tool and that observation schedule is observation schedule is a technique and observation is a tool. Sorry, I'm getting devoted.
Observation schedule is also a tool.
Observation schedule is a tool and observation is a technique.
Okay, anything else besides that? Okay, fine. Anything else besides that?
In observation, you can have like any kind of observation,
right,
and the schedule is what actually guides you to collect whatever you want to according to your specific objectives.
Exactly. So you make an observation, I make an observation schedule, and I say I'm going to see that what is the infrastructure of the Maharaja Sayajirao University of Baroda. Do they have a computer center? I put down there. How many computers do they have? Are they being used? Are they new? Are they old? Are they functional? Do they have a counseling center? Do they have a placement center? Do they have a facilitation, student facilitation center? So, and how many, what are the buildings like? Do they have a playground? Do they have a cricket ground? Do they have hostels for girls, for boys? What is the infrastructure in the hostels do they have? How are the rooms? Do they have furniture? So all that I'm going to put, it's totally structured. So I put it in my observation schedule, and I try and find out that what is that they have and what is that they don't have, what is being used and what is not being used. But when I'm using the technique of observation, I don't really have a schedule with me. Okay, so I'm going to observe everything that is happening on the site. I'm observing the phenomena that is happening. Okay, so that is the most important thing for us. It is totally unstructured. So in a qualitative study, as previously, a number of resource persons have been telling you that you can observe different things which keep on changing. You're going deep into the study, and that is what you observe and you write down in your field notes, which we shall be talking about. Okay, so and the disadvantages. So, but what is the disadvantage? What will happen? Let's say that you want to observe. Okay, so what could be the disadvantage is actually, I've already put it down there in the slide, is that you may not be allowed to gain access. Okay, so you may want to do something, but you may not be given permission. So that is one of the limitations of your observation technique. Now, just to share with you, I have always been wanting, to do, right now I'm guiding 8 scholars, but I was always interested to do a study, to see the change in attitude in the convicts of the jail of Baroda. Okay, but I will not get access to that because I was told that, they cannot give protection. So somebody might, jump at me, something can happen, which could be a danger to my life. So if I want to study the way redemption is happening in the convicts who are there in the jail of Baroda, and what changes have come across in 1 year, and how their attitude has changed, how their behavior has changed, but the authorities may not give me permission. In fact, the permission informally, of course, I was talking, and the permission is not given. So I may want to observe, I may want to do a study, but the limitation is that I may not be given access to it or may not be given, permission. Now, when we come about observation skills, now, there's a very good book you can read, all those who are interested, maybe even you're not at the moment doing a qualitative study, but maybe in your free time, if you do have interest in this direction, there's a very good book by Michael Quinn Patton. Okay, and he has said so emphatically that you have to be a skilled and a trained and a disciplined observer. Mark my words. He says a trained, disciplined, and a skilled observer. And any observer, let's say that any observer who's not skilled and disciplined and has and observes a phenomena, observes, any event that's happening or any culture or any interaction, any social interaction or whatever your objective is, will not be able to record the observations as accurately in a descriptive form as a skilled observer. Okay, and he goes on to say that he himself trained for 2 years in order to get the skills of observation. So observation, let me tell you, when you're using it as a tool, a qualitative tool of research, is not as simple as it sounds. Okay, now if I have a picture here and you can identify what the picture is and you can tell me what skills are required. Yeah. What is this picture of?
Ma'am, it's a picture of some unicellular organism.
Yeah.
And we need the knowledge of biology in order to understand these things.
No, I don't understand the picture. I'm just saying this was penicillin. I'm going to tell you what it is. This was fungus developed, the fungus which was seen by Alexander Fleming, and that is how penicillin was discovered. Okay, so this is the microorganism, that is the fungus, and he saw this was a contaminated petri dish, and he saw that the whole area where there was fungus, the penicillin, was able to, that is the antibiotic which the fungus produced. Okay, now when Fleming discovered this, okay, what kind of observation skills do you think was required? Maybe you and I couldn't have done it. So what is the observation skills, which you feel is so important? Anyone?
Madam, to find out something out of the ordinary.
Yes, who's speaking? We have Dr. Pooja.
Ma'am, growth of the fungus and after giving another one.
Fine, but what is the observation skills? Do I need to see the growth of the fungus?
Ma'am, another one, after giving the penicillin, what effect we can understand or judge with the growth of the fungus?
No, I'm not asking that, Pooja. I'm simply asking you, observation skills are required.
It's all regarding the recording of the whatever we are observing at regular intervals. First of all, we need to do this.
Analysis.
Okay, wonderful.
I for detail. Details.
Very good. I for detail.
Minute and continuous observation.
Wonderful. Continuous observation. I for detail. What else?
Critical observation.
Wonderful. Critical observation. Yes.
Recognition.
Yes. Anything else?
Recording at intervals, time intervals.
Yes. Recording at time intervals, periodic intervals, many observations. Yes. What else?
Being subjective, being objective in your approach.
Okay. See, here again, that is a state of mind, objectivity. Okay?
Yes.
I'm talking about observation skills. I for detail. Yes, please.
A good level of patience.
Patience, wonderful.
If I add a little bit on the lighter side, which I used to tell in my class, you should have an eye something like Sherlock Holmes, a detective, where you see things which others don't see. The scene is the same, the materials are the same, but then Dr. Watson doesn't see it, Sherlock Holmes sees it.
Yeah, exactly. Thank you so much. Okay, so exactly. So that the point, I'm making a very simple point here. I'm just trying to say that, you know, observation requires skills. Okay, we may think that the observation technique is very simple. It is not so in a qualitative study, and I'm going to prove my point as we go forward. So again, I have listed out some, you know, which is required here in the case of microorganism, which is fungus over here, and also supposing, you know, let's say, and let me give you a case, and let's say that you go to there is a negotiation process that is happening. Okay, you are observing 3 CEOs of 3 multinational companies. Okay, and you have you know, a negotiation process that is happening. You know, they are involved. What skill is important? Here you have talked about, yes, you know, the eye for detail, all detail, okay, critical observation. But when I have, let's say, human beings involved, okay, and I'm trying to, you know, or let's say, take any other example, you are trying to observe the classroom interaction between people and teachers. What observation skill would be there? Yes.
Ma'am, good listening skill.
Wonderful. Okay, so listening skill is another very important skill which I have listed down here. So skill required, you know, and here if you see, you have listening skills are extremely important in a qualitative study. In fact, you have to listen by your 5 senses. And I being a person of communication also, I always say, you have to be a whole body listener. Okay, which means that everything, not only your ears, you're listening with your eyes, you're listening with your touch, you're listening with your smell, you're listening, you know, involving all your sensory organs. Now, the second one, which all of you have already shared with me, careful attention to visual details. You know, you said, look very critically, look for all details, a lot of concentration required. Now we find that, you know, that sometimes what happens is that there is a deception of people. Sometimes what happens is that they do not get what they're able to observe. There is awkwardness, you know, because they are concerned. These are the limitations. Sometimes if you go for a qualitative study, you are treated as there are issues that emerge. You're treated as an outsider. You may not have certain support which is available to you. So sometimes this happens in observation. Okay. Now, the thing is that when you are observing, because observation is a very potent tool in qualitative research, and which could be even sciences, which could be social sciences, which could be any study that we are talking about. Now, you have to take a role. Okay? We all play a role. Now, the role depends, no one role is suited for all sites, for all situations, for all phenomena that you want to study. And it depends on your research questions. It depends on the purpose of your study. It depends the access that you have to the site. It depends how comfortably you are there with the participants. What kind of rapport have you established with the participants? So you have this very 3 pillar role that we are talking about. Okay? And these roles, maybe they have been touched upon before too, but we shall actually do it a little more in detail. You know. Now, see, whenever you're doing a study which is qualitative in nature, and especially which is an ethnographic study. Now, you are a participant observer. Okay. Now, what is the meaning of being a participant observer? Anyone?
Ma'am, it would mean assimilating into the surroundings around you and adapting. So you have to blend in and not stand out.
Okay. Anyone else? Right.
For example, when Westerners are studying Indian cultures, they stay with these people, ethnic groups, and then study them.
Exactly. Okay, so that is very, very important here, especially where human beings are concerned, So here we're talking about where these roles you have to adapt to, where you're seeing experiences from the views of the participant. Okay, you become one of them. Okay, you seeing from their eyes, and you're trying to understand their perspective. So you become an insider rather than an outsider. Now, supposing, or let me tell you, I don't know how many of you are aware, there is this Jharia tribe in Andaman and Nicobar Island, okay? And this is in Port Blair, when you're going from Port Blair, to see those limestone caves which are there. Jharia tribe, which resides, it's a special reserved area, and there are only 50 of them left in this whole world, okay? And so if you want to try and see, or you have the Kharia tribe, which is there in Orissa, which is there in Jharkhand, which are there, the Santhali tribes which are there. And if you actually want to see and study their role, especially this Jharia tribe, they do not entertain other human beings amidst them. But if you want to study, and if you get permission, and if you want to study them, and then you become an insider, and you want to study the culture, you want to study what is that, they do not, why is that? They do not want to mix with the mainstream. They do not want to mix with the mainstream if you read about them. So you have now become an insider, and that is where a participant observation, as a participant observer, becomes important. And even I have read studies that it's not only for tribes, that is one of the common example that comes to our mind, but it is not even that. Even with students, even with learners, even with children, okay, you try and become friendly with them, you try and understand, you play with them, let's say at secondary school or higher secondary school, and establish a rapport with them, and you're trying to see the value development in learning. Let's say, how value development has happened, and what is the value-based behavior that they exhibit. That is that we want to study, let us say, in value education. So even there also, when you develop a rapport, and they start seeing you as one of them. So these are all the roles of participant, observer, or observations, technique that you can adopt. Now, what is the other role that you could adopt in observation? Yes. So you are a participant observer. Is there any other kind of observation can we do? I do not get permission to become one of them. The headman of a tribe does not give me permission to go and become one of them. So what do I do now? So what alternative?
Non-participant observer. Non-participant observer.
Yes. So that is the next role that I can play. So we have the next role that we play is of the non-participant observer, So you're basically, you are recording, this is participant observation, that you are recording information. Okay, so many times you take notes while you're participating, you're writing down the observations that you are, you have with you at the research site. So that is, then you have what just now, which was told by one of you, is the non-participant observer. Okay, so you are not really getting involved with the activities there. So you are not one of them. You're not an insider. You are an outsider. Like I told you about this Jharia tribe, which I happened to see in Andaman and Nicobar Island, passing through, we were not allowed in the habitation that they have, but we could see some of them walking on the road. So if you are trying to study, you may not get permission to be one of them. So there are many tribes like that, which do not give you permission to be an insider. So then what would you do? So then you are, a non-participant observer. So many of, especially in education, in the teaching learning process, many times you are not a participant observer. You may not play the role of a learner, and you may not have access to that. You may not get permission for that. So then you are a non-participant observer. Now, some of my students who have studied value development, in learners, they were all non-participant observers, and they noted down that what value-based behavior was demonstrated, okay, or not demonstrated by the learners, or the students of class 9 or class 8. So they observe the students from the outside. Okay, so you are not really involving yourself in the actual experiences. So that is one thing that we have to keep in mind. Now, what do you mean by changing your role, changing observational role? What does that mean? Yes. What is changing observational roles? Now, I could either be if I ask you, you could either be a participant observer, or you could be a non-participant observer. Okay? But then how do you change your role? Is there anything else could you be? Yes. Is there anything else could you be? Anything else? Yes. How would you change one role into another? Anyone? Just try. Yes. See, many times it happens that you are a non-participant observer. Okay, it works both the ways. But usually what happens is that you are a non-participant observer. And then what could you be? And you try and observe from the periphery, from the outside. You're an outsider. But then you start developing rapport with your research participants, with your sample, with your research participants. Now, when you start developing a rapport, can your role change? Yes. Are you committed to change your role?
Yes, ma'am. Yes.
Yes?
Yes.
Sure?
Yes.
Sure? Yes. So in any qualitative study that you do, you have absolutely the liberty, you have absolutely the freedom to change, to go from a non-participant observer to a participant observer. Okay, so if you're trying to study, the psychosocial behavior of students, let's say your pre-primary learners, so you are a non-participant observer over there. Okay, so you could try and be one of them, or from a participant observer, you can also become a non-participant observer. So it works both ways. But usually, if you see when this qualitative tool is being used, usually we find that you go from being a non-participant observer to a participant observer, because you become familiar with all your research participants, and you get access, and you build a rapport, and so they open out to you, and they feel that you can become one of them. Okay, so that is also perfectly permissible. So that is, you adapt, you change your observational role, and you adapt to the situation that you want. Okay. Now, the process, which we have listed out here, permissions are very, very important. Consent is very important. Consent has to be taken. And even, if you go for your data collection, you have to show your letter of consent. You have to show that your proposal has gone through an ethical committee. That again is very, very important. And initially what you could do is you have a brief observation first. You try to get the tone and the feel. Let's say you're trying to go to a forest and you're trying to You study the patterns of behavior of animals, you familiarize yourself with the site, okay, which are the animals, when do they come, what do I observe? You ask the gatekeepers there for guidance, which be people who are there, who are the stakeholders there. It could be teachers, it could be principals, it could be the forest officers. So then only you have to determine your role as an observer. So like many of you said here, multiple observations, broad observations first, and then you narrow your observations to your specific aspects that you want to study. And you are recording your notes during your observation. Okay. Now, what are field notes actually? Usually, the researcher is, taking down field notes. So what is that? Anyone?
Now it is the primary data, what the data is, take out from the observation.
Okay. So that is the data you're recording in your field notes that you're writing down, which has to be recorded. Okay, I'm going to give you an example here. Okay, so in any qualitative study, the text, the recording that you're doing, and so what would you write in your field notes? Is there a process to it, or anything you write? What would you write in your field note? Anyone who was doing a qualitative study, what would you write? What would you write? Does it have some kind of a format? Some components, not a format, but some components that you consider, essential. Okay. Would it have some components that you consider essential? Yes.
Yes, ma'am. Like in our field notes, we'll make sure that we mention that what place we are going. If it's like multiple sites, then we'll write that down. The timings, how many people we observed, and like in our field notes, we'll begin with the context, like the description of the context, timing, culture, everything, and then we'll start observing what exactly, the main component of our observation.
Exactly. So you have the time, the place, the activities, the information. Now see, I have used two words here: descriptive notes you're making and reflective notes you're making. What would you write in descriptive and what would you write in reflective? Yes. Or are they both the same?
Ma'am, reflective would be what we are taking back from the observation.
Okay, and what is descriptive?
Descriptive would be like the particular details that we are seeing, whether they are required,
Okay. Let's say, absolutely right. So let's say I am observing the phenomena of collaboration. Okay, how do let's say principals, or let's say CEOs, or let's say learners, they collaborate with each other. Okay, so what I see the process of collaboration, I describe what I see. Okay, they are negotiating, they are using listening skills, they have, there is conflict resolution that's happening. Okay, there's communication which is happening now. So I'm just describing the process of collaboration which I'm studying. Let's say in 5 principals of schools, or let's say 5 managers, or any authority that you want to see. Now, when you talk about reflection is when my own thoughts, my own hunches, my own intuition, my own gut feeling comes in, So I'm trying to reflect as to why is this happening, okay? Could it be, what is the context, which is making this to happen? So I go beyond the description that I just see. Okay, so that becomes important here. Okay, and so in qualitative studies, see, initially I remember the first one, the session that you had, research paradigms, which you had, and after that, qualitative studies also, which you had. In a quantitative study, this would speak as bias. You would say that, the researcher adding his own perspective, what the researcher feels is biased, but this is a qualitative study. And that is how, in a qualitative study, and I remember Professor Amrut also saying that how it's a big question mark that how subjective even a quantitative study could be and how objective even the scientific method is, because it carries the subjectivity of the person who involved it. So here, but in a qualitative study, what you think, what you add, what meaning you are giving to it, what interpretation you are giving to it has a very important place. Your reflections here has a very important place because you are going beyond description here. Okay. So that is what we have talked about, the personal thoughts. The insights, the hunches, the broad ideas, themes which are emerging during your exploration. Okay? So make yourself known. Many times you have to be unobtrusive, you're not conspicuous, you take a position, a vantage position which is there, which you can, see, record, and you draw from the side. Okay, now I have put here field notes which was taken, by a researcher, and you're going to tell me, you're going to have a look at the field note, and you're going to tell me that what are your observations on both of this? Can you see it properly? Can you see it?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes.
First one reads, the student was hostile towards the teacher. I want your observations, your reflections on both the field notes. Please mute, please. Yes. Researchers record the event and note this down in the field notes.
Maybe the child is not, or the student.
No, I'm not asking the meaning. I'm asking.
I'm Harendra. Can I tell you?
Loudly, please.
Ma'am, can I say?
Yes,
I'm Harendra.
Harendra.
Yes, the first thing is the teacher. It is written that the student was hostile towards the teacher, but the reason was not given. The first thing. The second thing is when the teacher told that the student she could not do what wanted to. So what is the student want to do, and teacher is resisting or saying no about it. That is not mentioned. So the primary, event has not been mentioned over here. That was the background scenario for where the teacher was stopping the student to do such things. And second thing that student says that you cannot control, the students. That it must be some issue where the student is first of all resisting and then started blaming to the teacher.
Mm-hmm. Okay, thank you, Harin. Harin, you're from psychology department. You are with us.
Yeah. Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Yeah, I was trying to place you. You were in the department, right? Some time back. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Okay. So, anyone else would like to observe? two researchers have seen the same event and recorded this in the field notes. So he says the second one has the whole event or the whole, what happened, recorded or written down. But I say it's fine. The first is, there is hostility being shown. Second, maybe hostility is being shown. Now, whether I write the first or the second, dono to theek hai. Theek hai kya? Is it?
Second. Then the first one is a reflective data, and the second one is a descriptive data.
No, I'm not asking that, Aditi. That is not my question. Second descriptive है, reflective कहाँ है? वो तो describe कर रहे हैं. Exactly. See, I put in quotes.
Ma'am,
second भी तो
descriptive
ना.
Ma'am, in the first observation, it was result is given. It was not mentioned why this thing has happened. But in second, it has mentioned that because there are some reason because of that student was hostile.
So think in terms of when you are in the field and you are, recording a phenomena and you are, or any incident that is there. So would you like to, what I'm saying is that as a student as a researcher, would you go in for the first one, the way to write down, or the second field note recording? What would you like to do? Which researcher, according to you, my question to you is, which researcher, according to you, has actually made,
Second one, ma'am.
Ma'am, second one.
Second one is a very descriptive, so that there is no bias.
The second one is
bias.
The point I'm making is sometimes your field notes are very overgeneralized. It's very generalized, hostile towards the teacher. You're making a general statement. But hostility, has to be detailed out in concrete and detailed out terms. So that is the way, field notes have to be written. So that becomes important. Okay. Both are right, actually. But that is not the way that you would write your field notes. So when you are using observation, as a technique and you're recording down in your field notes, then what is the way to write? Of course, you all said, which was absolutely right, your day, your time, your site, okay, all that. But the way you write it, the way you describe it, the way you verbalize it, that becomes important. So that is why qualitative, in qualitative research, it is said that you should know how to express. So expression here becomes extremely important when you're writing down, your observations or any other data that you collect through any other tool or technique. Okay. So sometimes, you also have a form, you have certain books now. If you go to, this Cresswell has an observational protocol. He calls it observational protocol. And there is a form that has been designed, okay, where you write the descriptive notes. You can write, you divide it into two columns. There's a header, and the header has the date, the time, the location. You divide that into two columns. You have the descriptive, you have the reflective. So you can do it that way also, or you can do it the way you want to, because there's nothing structured here, but certain, observational protocol in the form of forms and formats, you would find if that helps you to make your data more, recording more systematic, that can also be adopted. Okay. Quotes of the individual, portraits, pictures, maps, all can be taken. I'm going to come again to that. Okay. So I've written time, place, setting, two columns, description of activities, reflection of activities, quotes, personal experiences of the researcher, all can be put there. So formats are also available in case if you want to do, you have the liberty to do that. Okay. Okay. Now here, what is the second that I have? One just second. So we have, you have interviews. Now see, interviews are also being used to collect quantitative data. Okay, all of you know that you have interviews which are being used. Now, what is the difference then? I say that interviews are also being used to collect qualitative data. What is the difference according to you? Yes.
Ma'am, could you please repeat your question?
Yeah, I said interview as a tool is also being used to collect qualitative data. But you have studied interviews also to collect quantitative data. So how is it? It's the use of the interview that you conduct, so how is this interview different when you're trying to collect qualitative data?
These interviews would be more open-ended.
Okay,
questions,
very good.
sorry.
Very good. Anything else? Yes.
It must be in detail in case of qualitative research.
Okay.
And in case of quantitative research, it is specific and close-ended.
Okay. I think that's absolutely right what you say. See, interviews are also being used to collect qualitative data. But the way you collect, data, information, whatever you want to collect through interviews in a qualitative research is going to be very, very different from what you want to collect, in the quantitative data. So here, supposing, first of all, open, like you say, open-ended questions. So open-ended questions here are very, very important. Now, you could always start with a close-ended question that is also there, and then, come to open-ended, maybe one open-ended, a close-ended could be there if you're trying to find out something, and then come to the open-ended questions that you want to ask, your respondents or your research participants, and give them enough space, give them enough options to respond. So here, it is, though there is a semi-structure, I don't say that it is not totally, it is unstructured. It can be unstructured, totally unstructured. It can be semi-structured too. But then my questions, one questions lead to the other. It is not, tightly structured. So one question is going to lead to another question. So if, for example, there's a research which is going on in our own department, we have a researcher who's talking about life experiences of families with children suffering from autism. Okay, we have a qualitative study which is going on in the department. Life experiences of parents, okay, with parents of children suffering from autism. The disease autism. There is a mental disability, and so their symptoms. And so you ask them about. Now you ask the parents about their life experiences. What experience did you go through, and what difficulties did you have? How did you cope with your children who were suffering from autism? What kind of denial were you in? So one question, now when you get a response, one question is going to lead to another question. Okay, so you can have a kind of a semi-structure which is there. It can be totally unstructured also. But then you have questions which you have not. All questions are not what you have really thought of. So many questions there are going to emerge from the data that you get from your respondents, like the example that I was giving you here. Okay, so we are not forcing them to say anything here, and they are, and that is why if you see in report writing, you will have a session on qualitative report writing also, which is right in the end, and how, the words, the quotes are taken and described there, what the parents have actually said. So that also we find there, which is there. So, of course, the advantages of interviews, where I need to interview. I can't sometimes, I cannot do observation. I cannot be on the site. I don't have access to the site. So in that case, I have, interview is my choice. And the interviewer also has control, the kind of information I want from you, I get from you. I can ask specific questions besides the other questions that I want. Okay. Of course, see, in any communication process, there's filtration that happens, anything, it's interview, any interaction, any communication. So sometimes, you get the views, you add your own views to it. So many times that happens, which is there. Now, one-to-one interview, okay? So are you all aware? I don't have to really explain one-to-one interview, which is a very time-consuming process. All respondents are interviewed, and so you have a teacher, let's say teacher leadership. If I have 7 teacher leaders who are playing the formal role of teacher leaders in a school, and I interview each one of them. Okay, so each one of them, it's going to be time taking. So that is one thing. Now, but the advantage is, one-to-one interviews is they are confident, they are articulate, they're going to give me the data. So I decide, okay, I'm going to have, one-to-one interview with my respondents, which I want. Now, focus group interviews, okay? So, what is this focus group interviews? What is this that we are talking about?
Yes. What is open-ended question and closed-ended question? Just
No, focus group interviews. So anyone here who would like to tell me what is a focus group? See, this is a tool that we use in qualitative. This is a very important qualitative tool which is used to collect data. And many of the qualitative studies that you do, you use focus group discussions or focus group interviews. Now, if you find, that if you see some authors, they call it focus group interviews, some literature that you see, you will call it focus group discussion. Now, but Patton's book that I was reading, he categorically says no. He says no, it is focus group interviews. But literature, if you see it is acceptable, you can call it focus group FGD, focus group discussion, or focus group interviews. Now, what is this focus group? Okay. Now, if you see here, see, a focus group is usually you have from 4 to 8 research participants, and they are homogeneous in nature. They belong to the same type, and the same kind of data that you want. And so I have a group. Now, I'm going to give you an example, which I was able to, conduct. Me and one of my co-authors, we wrote a paper on educational, the educational problems of transgenders. Where we had taken 8 transgenders, where we had the focus group discussion or the focus group interviews, all 8 of them. Okay, and we tried to find out that what are the problems, and they were all educated. One was a performing artist, one was, he had done dance from performing arts, one had done B.Ed, the other one had done 12. So they were all educated and they were all, involved in various jobs. So we wanted to know their journey, that the 8 transgenders, and mostly all of them were trans women. And so we had me and my co-author, this is a published article which got published, and what are the problems that they actually faced, So why did I have a focus group interview with them? Why? So I called all 8 of them. We went there and we posed our questions and we recorded their answers.
I'm audible and visible.
So why did I really have a focus group interview? I could have also had one-to-one. Anyone?
Because experiences are shared within a particular target group or a focus group, and so maybe to trace certain patterns or similarity or even contrast, it would help to have a group of people, focused group of people with similar experiences. It makes it easier to track down similar patterns.
One, fine. That's right. One, I have. I want to know their perspectives. What are the educational problems in their educational journey? What is that they face? What were the issues and what were the challenges? This is what we were asking them, and what was the support that they got from the community, from the parents, from the educators. So it is a homogeneous group, there is the same kind of data that I'm looking for. Yes. Anything else? That's right. Anything else?
At the same time, the focus group interview.
You're Felix?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, please.
Focus group interview, it's going to give you an in-depth understanding because you are getting the views from the various perspectives, which you cannot get in one-on-one at the same time.
Why not? I say that I interview each one of them separately. I ask my questions that I have, and I have a detailed understanding which each one has to say. Let's say I do that. So why not?
The response of one individual or one respondent can lead to another response of another respondent. It can influence.
Very good. So yes, so the second point what you're talking is that, the perspectives, they add on to each other. Okay, I say one respondent, says something, then the other one adds on to that, the third one adds on to that, or about the same thing, what they have to say, they expand on that, they elaborate on that, they could add on a different perspective. Very good. Anything else? One point remaining. Yes, please.
Also be a time-efficient way of conducting your research.
Okay. Fair enough. It's time. I have 30 people I want to interview. So I make groups of 6 and 8, and I can do it it's less time consuming. Fine. Anything else? One point is still remaining. That's right. What you say?
Ma'am.
Yes, please.
Ma'am, I think when you call it focus group, because they are the people that you are focusing on them. They are the only people that you are targeting them. And the research is about them.
So
they are the people that, you are conducting the research about them.
No. So even Farhad, even one-to-one interviews, research is on them. Research is on them. Even on one-to-one, the research is on. I can ask. Why not?
Ma'am, it's easy to
saves our time.
It saves the time and easy to execute.
Last point. Yeah, that point is over. Yeah, it saves time. That's fine. Anything else?
Ma'am, can I?
Yes, please. Yes, please, Ravi Mishra.
So basically, they validate the peers study. Whatever the peers are sharing, it can get immediately validated by the another participant.
Okay, fine. Anything else?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, is that 1 minute? Is that M Sufa? Yes, please.
Ma'am, when people having same experience sit together, they open up easily.
Yeah.
So
please excuse me 1 minute. M Sufa, we have been trying to identify you. What is your name? I'm sorry for this because we can't catch hold of you, since the last 3 days. What's your actual name in your registration?
Ma'am, we are eminent students in the case building right there, downstairs.
तो आपको बोलना चाहिए ना. अच्छा ठीक है. Okay, fair enough. Okay, so I think that's very, very relevant what he says. See, sometimes, people don't share. This transgenders focus group discussion that we did, this was in 2020, I'm talking. And so if we would have called one person many times, they're not articulate enough. They do not share their views. And very likely, as he says, there is fear, there is barrier. So that is also one reason that I have a group where they all share with each other. And they take cues from each other, they take strength from each other, and they open up and get the data that you want. But many times what happens in an open group, in this focus group discussion or a focus group interview, what could happen which could be a disadvantage? Can something happen? Yes. What could be a disadvantage? Yes, please.
Yes, so basically one disadvantage that we have observed in one of our focus group interviews is that some participants, in order to create the influence on the co-partners, peers, they hyper-inflate something.
Okay.
Hyper-inflate, or they overemphasize on certain phenomena. Okay. So we have to validate it from the peers so that there is a check and balance in the responses.
Okay. Okay, anything else?
Threaten their identity.
Ma'am, they can also change their answers because everyone is listening to them, so they can change the answer according to it. We can get a fake information or a wrong information in the focus.
See, now let me tell you one thing. We go with the belief that that they are your primary source of data. Okay. And we are, recording our own hunches, no doubt, the context, your hunch, your gut feeling, your reflections, all are into play in a qualitative research. But then the data that is given to you, okay, so that is what you have to take the data. Of course, you will interpret it, with the senses that you feel, that is right. So now whether it is a one-to-one displays for everyone, whether it's a one-to-one interview, whether it is a focus group, this thing, you can get socially, what we call it in social science, socially acceptable answers. So, and that is where the skill of the researcher comes in, So that is where it becomes important to find out that what they're saying is right. So that is one thing which is very, very important here, which we have to keep in mind. No, what I'm talking about is that sometimes what happens, there are conflicts. Sometimes what happens that 2-3 participants will monopolize. Okay, there's a monopoly. Sometimes what will happen, that they dominate. So that has to be kept in check. That is what I'm trying to say here. Okay. Then you have telephonic interviews. Recently I was involved in a project with NIPA. I'm involved where it was all about skill development schemes of the government of India and the Gujarat state, how vocational skill schemes, which, there are sectoral skill councils in every sector, IT, ITAS, pharma, life sciences, auto components, and what schemes of vocational they are doing. I could not go to Chennai, I could not go to Pune, I could not go to Delhi, I could not go to 5-6 different states where these representatives, are all sitting of the government of India. So I had a telephonic interview. So many times what happens is asking them that what are the skill development courses that are required in their own sector, So what is that you want? Where when I say skilling courses, I mean students who go after 12th, after 10th, the various ITI courses, the various skilling schemes like the Pradhan Mantri Kaushalya Yojana, Sikho or Kamau, Jan Sanstha Mission. So all these are schemes of the government. So I had telephonic interviews and I got interviews which are there. So sometimes I feel the telephonic interviews, They are important. Email these days, you can have interviews through, Zoom, email, all that can be done, which is important. But email interviews, again, the whole thing of ethics becomes important, and your data theft, which is important. So that also becomes very, very important right now, So this notes during interviews, that you all know, probing skills, plan. I think this, I don't have to, this thing. Interviews again, you have, because you're already into research, interview protocol, forms, that has to be done, okay? Consent is required, the interview, date, time, location, all that, statement, purpose. Again, this also interview protocol formats are there. So you have certain icebreaker question, you have certain open-ended questions which you have. So first you talk about the purpose of your study, how to be kept confidential. That's the icebreaking thing that you do. So that is important, Then comes the core questions, your research questions that you want to ask, you can probe. That is important there, okay? Now there's one thing that I want to show you. Close-ended, open-ended, okay? Now I especially want to show you, yes. Now tell me, have a look at this piece. The first one. What is wrong with this? Is it fine? How well do you know the vision? Let's talk about the first question. How well do you know the vision and work of your principal? Has the formulation of your question okay?
No, it's not okay.
Why not?
You cannot frame a question like know the vision and work of your principal, work of your principal phrase.
No, I'm not grammatically. I'm not asking you grammatically.
It limits the scope of the answer.
I'm not saying grammatically, conceptually also. It cannot be attached with the word principle, vision and work. Conceptually also it will be replaced by the word work. I mean some other word will be used.
Okay, fine. You say any other word you can put?
It can include personal bias as well. The study can...
Loudly please.
It can include some personal bias as well in the study.
Why? What's the vision? I'm trying to ask you that what is the vision and the work of your principal. You can put anything.
May I?
And work ke badle role and responsibility also you can put.
May I?
Yes.
It's not enough to be here, I think.
Please, 1 minute. We are on the first question right now. Yes.
It limits the scope of the answer. It does not. It's not asking what is the vision. It is just saying how well do you know, so the person can answer like very well or not so well. So then, like you may not get the data that you're looking for.
No, sorry, I'm not with you.
May I answer?
1 minute. Yeah, what did you say just now? Who's that? Kritika? Was that Kritika? Yeah, who just now said? How does it limit the scope? Yes, please.
Ma'am, it was me, Bhavika, because the question, am I audible?
Yes, please go ahead. Yes.
Yeah. No, because the question does not say, does not ask specifically about, like, to understand what is the vision or what are the principles. It just says, how well do you know? So the person can say, okay, I know very well, or I don't know at all. And then it might just get stopped there.
Okay, so you're saying, that it could be close-ended. Okay.
Yeah, it sort of limits the scope of answer.
Okay.
Ma'am, is this ambiguous? This is a vision about what? What work are we talking about? This is ambiguous.
Okay, fine. Anything else? Right. Absolutely.
And
at a time, two questions cannot be asked.
Vision with
yes. Is that Neela? Who's that?
It's Mariam.
Yes, Mariam, tell me.
At a time, a researcher cannot ask two questions in one question.
Exactly. See, what all of you say is fine. But another very important point is what all of you have said is fine. But another very important point here is that, each item must be singular. Okay? Explain the vision, or how well do you know the vision, or, what is the vision of your principal? Anything you say, you can reword it, whatever you want to say. But vision and work, okay? So we have to try and formulate questions which are singular, each item must be singular. And this is a mistake which many people make. Either it's in the questionnaire of a qualitative study, whether you're using it as a qualitative tool, or you're using it as a quantitative tool, okay? Now read the second question. What's wrong with that? I'm studying a program. I'm doing a qualitative study on a student leadership program. And how it is impacting students in developing leadership skills, let's say.
Multiple questions cannot be asked together. All the questions are placed together, so they could be asked systematically one by one.
Exactly. So many times what happens, and if you see that a lot of researchers feel that the salient questions will be answered, but no, you are trying to, and that is sometimes, that is the justification that's given, but that's not really right, because many times it confuses the respondent, okay? And strengths and weaknesses are going to be very different, but what you like and what you don't like. Okay, so the answers there are all going to be different. So all these multiple questions which are put together, which can either be in a quantitative study or it could be in a qualitative study, is absolutely not recommended. Okay, then you have documents. Okay, most of the historical studies do a lot of document analysis, and you're trying to study artists, you're trying to study painters, you're trying to see the impact of craft, art, artisans, performers. If you find in performing arts, fine arts, if you have a lot of document analysis, or even in education, we try to see the curriculum. Yes, please. Please mute Kritika. Kritika, please mute. Kritika, please mute your microphone.
Yes, ma'am. Go ahead. I have done that.
Okay. So you have that even in education, when I'm studying the curriculum of all the teacher education institutes of the 2-year B.Ed program of Gujarat, let's say, and I want to study the document analysis has to be done. I'm studying the objectives, it's written somewhere. There are documents which are there, which are available. There's curriculum framework that is available. So policy documents that are available. So we have to do a Right to Education Act that is available, NEP 2020 that's available. I'm trying to see the vision that is there. So document analysis could either be, private, it could be in the public domain, it could be public, or it could be diaries, it could be in the private documents, it could be my private journal, it could be my private, diaries, it could be the minutes of board meetings that I have written. So it could be both, which is there. And I think I've seen that mostly in a lot of historical research and in other research too, document analysis has a big role to play. So that is, which I just told you, so advantages, that they are in the language they have. And so all document analysis that you have, are they all primary source of data or secondary source of data?
They can be secondary.
So what is diary? If I analyze your diary that you have written, if let's say I analyze a diary of, I'm doing a study on Mahatma Gandhi, okay, his role during the freedom struggle, and I analyze the diaries and the books that Gandhiji has written, what is that source would be?
It's a primary source.
Primary source.
Yes, so that is a primary source. But if someone else has written, it becomes the secondary source, which I want to analyze. And then in the end, I have what is audio-visual material, So many researchers make use of, like I was telling you, you want to study in one of the platforms, one of the researcher was trying to study down the years in performing arts, board instruments, how they have evolved down the years. Okay, so you will need to augment your research with certain, audio-visual photographs, which are available. Now, there was one research when someone was talking to me about the way. This is with document the portrayal of PW persons with disabilities, the way it's portrayed in films, the way it's portrayed in newspapers, in the print media. There was a research which was going on in one of the faculties where I was a reviewer. So now. Documents again is your newspapers and your films. He was trying to see how do films also portray people with disability. So you have your, videos, you have your films, and we have all these which is available to you. Now, I would like to share something very interesting here, I was in Hungary on a scholarship, and there is a museum of terror over there, which has all displays of audiovisual material when Hitler invaded, and he invaded all these countries, and the rule was there. So they have actually, I don't know how they have preserved it. They have displays on LED screens, or all the people at that time. Maybe they've converted the photographs, and so maybe if you're doing a research, you are a historian and you're doing a research on the Holocaust or the World War and the role of Hitler, and you can actually get those audiovisual material to augment the other sources of data that you have. But again, when you're using all these audiovisual material, permission, accuracy, authenticity is very, very important. How authentic is the material, which you have? So that again becomes a very, very important here. Now, these are some of, this thing. What I'm saying is that some of the tools which is used in qualitative research, which is there, many of them I told you, some of them are common to quantitative research, but the way we use it for collecting qualitative data, brings us the difference here. So I think I have kept my time because I know it's evening time and you're tired, but still, if there are any questions, I would be happy to answer.
Ma'am, I have a question.
Yeah.
Whenever we make these questionnaires or like in qualitative research majorly, when we make our tools, how do we go about doing the validation of these tools? Like yesterday, Sona ma'am talked about using, pre-validated or in quantitative research, how do you validate tools? How do we go about validating the tools here?
See, this is not a quantitative rating scale, where you have to find the reliability and the validity, content validity, face validity. You don't have to do that here. So here, what we find is it's the researcher's prerogative, because how will you validate? You are not also putting all the questions that you have. Questions are emerging, It is not decided. Objectives change. So when you are in the field, there's so many questions that will come up which you would like to be a part of your tool or your data or your observation, So here, the skill of the researcher is here, that where you go, because it keeps on changing, okay? So here it is not that this is This is not quantitative, that you have decided, pre-decided all the questions. It is not, of course, you have given it a semi-structure. Let us say, one of the students is studying social capital here, in the elementary schools, and doing a case study. So there is observation that she's doing, and you're trying to see what is the impact on leadership, what is the impact of school effectiveness, student engagement, that is all she has decided. There's nothing more that she has decided to. So this year, so there is no formal reliability that you find here. That is what normally the researchers do.
Thank you, ma'am.
Because questions are emerging. You're not even sure yourself how many questions you're going to add to it.
Yep. Thank you, ma'am.
What is open-ended question and what is closed-ended question?
Okay. Do you study in the MS University of Baroda, Pinakin?
Yes, ma'am. I did B.Ed.
Okay. So you said yes?
Yes, ma'am.
That's close-ended. Okay. I said, Pinakin, do you study in